Hi, I'm Crystal. Today I made another page in my All Tim Holtz art journal, and this project really put me in mind of punch art from back in the day, which I loved, as well as the Cubism paintings of Picasso. So the die set is abstract elements, so I thought that was appropriate to recreate this Picasso look. And I started out by cutting out a bunch of pieces using abstract elements as well as steampunk parts. And so I took the circle from steampunk parts and trimmed it down just a little bit to make a better face shape for this. And I'm using a piece of tissue paper just to hold my pieces together while I assemble. I wasn't really quite confident enough to do this assembly directly on the page. I wasn't sure it was all going to turn out very well. So the abstract elements are just random shapes. You can build anything you want. It's not, specifically meant to build faces and people, but this is what I wanted to do for this page, and so I used these little pieces to make hair and the line of the nose and the neck and the body of some women. And I used the big semicircle from Steampunk Parts on each of these women, and to me it looks like the circle is the lady's back, and the pink bits are her arms and legs folded up. It's as if she's looking over her shoulder at the viewer, and you're seeing the side view of her arms, legs, and back. So I'll be interested to know if you see the same thing in this abstract assemblage. So I just kept building the parts together until I felt like I had a good representation, and made multiples of these ladies so that I had a few to put on my page together. So I really enjoyed punch art back when we were all doing that. I think that was a 90s thing, really, before the special dies became a thing. And this just really put me in mind of punch art, a little bit more creative with the abstract elements. This was so much fun to do. Really enjoyed it. Once I got the ladies all assembled, I can easily tear off the excess tissue paper, and whatever's left behind the people is really not going to show up very much on the finished page. So I thought that was a good approach to the mechanics of doing this. Do you see the curve of her back there? Once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. So I've trimmed off the tissue at the bottom, and now I'm just using scissors to cut off the excess for that squiggly that I used to make the line of the nose, and the excess bit for the hair. And then I had some little squiggly pieces that I put on as extra curls on the hair. I started out putting it on the matching hair, but the last one I did in a contrasting color, and that was so cute. I was sad I hadn't done them all contrasting color. Oh well. So once the ladies are all assembled, I am going to use my new most favorite craft tool to attach them. That's a silicone face mask applicator from the dollar store, and a little matte medium that I'm attaching to the backgrounds that I made with some stenciling. And then you can see that tissue just basically doesn't show up once they get on the page. Now I've carefully arranged the ladies so that the blank spots are going to back up to one another, and that's where I'm going to put my window. So you can see that blank spot is blank on both sides. I'm going to use a punch, sorry, to make my window, but you could use a die. I just am using a punch because I have a punch. And once I've done it on one side, I'm going to put the pages back to back and mark it with a pencil so that I can cut in the exact same spot on the facing page. So I don't think there's any rule that the windows have to line up. I just felt like I wanted them to. So I'm going to punch in that exact same spot. And then the hole is also perfectly fine, but I wanted to put some glass in my window. And so I'm using a window that I tore out of a junk mail envelope. So I'm going to trim that down to the correct size to put over my little space and use some double-sided tape to stick it down. So the reason I'm using double-sided tape here is because PVA glue, the white glue that is used for most craft applications, really does not play nicely with plastic. So I'm backing my words with some leftover Christmas wrapping paper, which also has a plastic coating on it. So I'm using that same double-sided tape. So part of the problem is that the PVA glue doesn't have anything to grab onto with plastic. And part of the problem is that PVA glue dries by evaporating the water, and the plastic on one side leaves less of an avenue for that evaporation. So this is definitely an application for the double-sided tape. Once I've got my Christmas wrapping paper in place over the words, I'm going to stick the pages together. And the pages could be stuck together, I think, using glue. That would work quite well. There's my shiny words. But I had the tape out, so I'm going to use the tape to do this. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get the tape to stick to your project without sticking it down in the wrong spot. But I learned a little trick from watching the videos of Natasha Foote, who is fabulous if you're unfamiliar. And she just leaves a little tail sticking out of the tape. And that works so well. So once I've got the tape put in place, with just a little bit of glue on the corners, because that's an awkward spot for the tape, I'm going to fold the tape down so that there's a little tail sticking out, but not the whole run of the tape. And so that makes it a little bit easier to line up the pages before adhering everything permanently on that tape. So that little bit of glue is just because that spot is awkward for double-sided tape. Now I'm going to line up the holes for the binding and the hole for the window, hold everything in place, and then start pulling the tails of the tape. Super easy. So easy. And so it makes me a lot more willing to use tape on some of these projects where in the past I would have been afraid I could not have gotten stuff lined up. And that's really it for the page, and I can stick it into my book. I am using a 3-ring binding approach because it's gotten so 3D. But I like it because you can see the facing page with the window on both sides. So I'm going to link to the playlist in case you want to check out any of the other pages, and I thank you for joining me today.